Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Quorum call.
Director Black.
Here.
Director Carlo.
Excused.
Director Kreutz. Here. Director Dakotas.
Excused.
Director Heath. Here. Director Marian.
Here.
Director Moses.
Excused.
Director Meserve. Here. Director Sargent.
Here.
Director Silvestri.
Excused.
Chairman Welch.
I'm here.
Mr. Nobile.
Here.
You have 7 members present and 4 excused.
7 members present, 4 excused. A quorum is established. Number 4, acceptance of the agenda. Chair recognizes the vice chair.
I move that we accept the agenda as written.
Vice chair moves to accept the agenda. Is there a second? Mr. Sargent? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? 7 members voting in the affirmative. The motion carries. Number 5, reading and approval of the minutes. The chair recognizes the vice chair.
I move that we approve the minutes from the previous meeting held on July 14th. Thank you.
Director Sargent seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All opposed? 7 members voting in the affirmative. The motion carries. Number 6, the chair inquires if there is any public comment. Seeing none. Number 7, the consent calendar. Chair recognizes the vice chair.
I move that we accept the consent calendar.
Director Heath moves that we accept the consent calendar. Is there a second? Director Black, any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? 7 members voting in the affirmative. The motion carries. Number 8 is the report from the chairman. I do just want to give a couple of updates, and first and foremost, for our board members, opening day will be on August 26th. Weather permitting, that's going to be outside at the football field at Bonnie Eagle between the middle school and the high school, 8 a.m. for those directors that would like to attend. You would certainly be welcome. For the community, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Kids Eat for Free this summer. We are continuing that until August 15th. Pickup days will be on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 to 10. You do need to register, but there is still opportunity for you if you need that. And that is at Bonnie Eagle High School, 700 Saco Road. And just a quick shout out to Bonnie Eagle Adult Education. There's not necessarily deadlines, but if it's something that you're interested in, I would definitely go ahead and sign up early, as early as you can. These classes can be canceled if there isn't the kind of interest that people are looking for. So you can give them a call at the 207-929-9185. And any questions for my report? Perfect. Number 9, the report of the superintendent of schools. Chair recognizes the superintendent.
Good evening. I have a few items tonight. One, just reminded as you were talking about our the Bonnie Eagle softball team, which is well, not directly a school team. They use the Bonnie Eagle name, and they're our kids, and they really represented our district, our state very well in the New England regionals, and just came up just a tiny bit short in the final game to keep a team that had just been steaming through the tournament and held them to 1 run. So I'm really proud of that team and just wanted to recognize their efforts. So congratulations to those folks. I also want to add, with Chairman Welch's comments about Kids Eat for Free, it has been a lot of fulfilling work, but a lot of work for our school nutrition staff to pull this off because the response has been far more than they thought they might get, which I think reflects the need. So it was a good problem to have, but I know talking to Erin Miller, our school nutrition director, she was a little bit surprised at how much work, not how much work, but how much response there was. So they had to kind of juggle at the beginning to get it all organized. But once they got into a rhythm, they've been able to serve a lot of families. And she's going to come back. She actually asked to come back to a future meeting to give an update, a report basically on how many meals they served, how many kids were able to take advantage of that. So. I also wanted to, I think board members are aware of this, but I think the timing was maybe after the last meeting. But Amanda Blunda, Buxton Center elementary teacher, is a semifinalist for Teacher of the Year. She was the York County, or is the York County winner, and they paired the list from 16 to 8 in July. And I think it was July 22nd they actually announced that. And so she is one of the 8 semifinalists that is moving on. I know she had to do a pretty significant process of reflection. She had to deliver a keynote, a professional portfolio. They were going to participate in panel discussions about different issues in education. And then that will all be judged. And then finalists, I'm not sure if it's maybe 3 finalists, but I'm not 100% sure, will be revealed in September. And then the 2026 main Teacher of the Year will be revealed in October. So really wishing her well. I did have a chance to talk with her just before her presentation, and she was nervous, but she kind of practiced with me, and I was impressed with her platform. So I think she'll do well, and whatever happens, she's represented us very well at this point. It's a really big deal to be one of the final 8 for that honor. Another honor in our theme of recognizing our staff, our transportation director shared with me an article that we passed out to you. It's really small writing. I was trying to enlarge it, but it just kept making it blurry. You can view this online. The school transportation news is published each month, and if you Google that in the August 2025 edition, they had a feature called Garage Stars, and John Warming, one of our very own diesel mechanics, was featured. So this is a little write-up on John and the work that he does in a national publication, recognizing his excellent work, taking care of our fleet of buses. So congratulations to John for being recognized and, again, making Bonnie Eagle proud. Another recognition, our custodial and maintenance crews have been really getting a lot done at the July Finance and Facilities meetings, which we already had a report on at the last meeting. They shared like 14 pages, I think, of projects that they have done, and that work has only continued in the last few weeks since that meeting. So I just want to recognize that group from the, catching up on work orders while trying to mow lawns, while trying to fix things in schools while students aren't there. They definitely pour a lot into this summer work. So I just wanted to recognize the hard work of that group. And I think also our technology department, who have been displaced all summer because of the work on the Jack Memorial building, which was much needed, but it caused them to have to be kind of homeless for the summer. So they're trying to find different places, and they have a lot of work in the summer getting devices ready for our students. So I just want to acknowledge the extra layer of work on that group as well. I'll just draw your attention to this poster. This is our latest draft. I think it's pretty much final. We found, I think, all of the mistakes and miscapitalizations and extra spaces, and that's capturing our latest strategic plan that was approved this last winter in a poster form. And the plan is, once we have something we're happy with, to have those hanging in all the schools. We do have a handout-sized version of that I can share moving forward. And we're going to try to make this more operational. One of the activities we did with the administrators this summer was ways that we can keep this a living, breathing document and not just something that goes on a shelf somewhere, hangs on a wall, and we don't reference it. So that's a challenge I'm going to try to take on, and I invite you to also join me in that as we do our work. How does it relate to the strategic plan? And a couple of field trips to inform you about. The girls volleyball team will be traveling to Northeast Harbor on August 24th and returning on the 26th, and they're participating in preseason round-robin scrimmages. And the football team will be traveling to Monmouth on August 18th, returning on August 22nd, and they'll participate in preseason team building activities. The first day of school for students, and I'll say most students, because this always gets confusing for people, the first day of school is August 27th, which is a Wednesday, I believe. And on that Wednesday, it'll be half of pre-K, and you might say, well, how will I know? The teacher will tell you which half you are. Half go on the first day of school, half go on the second day of school, so the teachers can get to know them. That's just pre-K. Everyone from kindergarten through sixth grade comes to school on the 27th. Ninth graders come to school on the 27th. 10th, 11th, and 12th graders get that day off, as do 7th and 8th graders. Then everyone starts on the 28th. So again, schools will be communicating this to families, and if anyone has any questions, contact the school. There are always some sixth graders who try to convince their parents they don't have to go to school. Fifth graders, I've seen fifth graders try to convince their parents they don't have to go to school. So don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. I do have one professional resignation to report. Lindsay Pendleton, our Dean of Students at Bonnie Eagle High School, is resigning effective August 1st. I just want to thank her for her service to the district. She's filled a number of roles, and she had a professional opportunity that we couldn't offer here. And she will be an assistant principal in another school district. I did tell her, there's nothing that says she couldn't return someday if she got some experience and ever saw an opening to come back to, and she was glad to hear that. So we wish her well, and I feel that at the next meeting, we will have a Dean of Students candidate for the board, because I know Principal Finn got right to work in trying to fill that, and we had a good response with applicant pool. So congratulations to Lindsay, and I wish her well. And that is my report.
Wonderful, thank you. Very, very busy summer, it sounds like. Are there any questions for the superintendent? Director Kreutz.
Thank you. So just two things. Yes, when you do have a handout for the strategic plan, I know I like to keep one handy in my bag and pull it out at meetings sometimes to think about the work that we're doing and how it affects the strategic plan. So when it's all buttoned up, I would love to have a copy. And then just not a question, but just a comment, hearing about the school meals, hearing about Ms. Blunda, the article about the technicians, all the work that happens, it really, we talk about Bonnie Eagle Pride and be proud, and just hearing about the amazing work. I just want, everyone to know that the board really appreciates the work that is done. It's incredible. I'm reading about the technician. I know in the past we've talked about how we do a fantastic job with keeping our buses running because of the people we have in-house. The technology team that we have, we're doing amazing things with technologies and really trying to push the cutting edge as much as we can with, the funding we have available. Just really across the board, everyone just does such a fantastic job. So just before the school year starts, thank you again from the Bonnie Eagle School Board. Awesome work.
I'll second that too. Any other questions, comments? Awesome. Number 10, executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 406BA to discuss an employment matter. The chair recognizes the vice chair.
I move that we go into executive session to discuss an employment matter.
Director Sargent seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? 7 in the affirmative, the motion carries. board will be in order. Look to number 11, appointment of Sherry Gornitis as Director of Bonnie Eagle Adult Education. The chair recognizes the vice chair.
I move that we appoint Sherry Goronitis as the Director of Bonnie Eagle Adult Education.
Director Heath moves. Director Sargent seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All opposed? It is unanimous. Congratulations, Sherry. Wonderful news. Number 12, presentation 2025 district climate data. The chair recognizes the assistant superintendent.
If I turn the microphone on, is that, or do you want me to stand at the podium? I feel like we're a small group tonight, so. Let me just, oops, that's the wrong thing to show you. I wanted to, before I start, since I have the microphone, I wanted to share, I'm going to see if I can make it bigger. I just wanted to, while we're giving shout outs about awesome things, I had the privilege a week or so ago to attend the graduation ceremony for Bonnie Eagle's first class of the Maine Construction Academy, and it was pretty amazing. We had 15 students, mostly graduating seniors or juniors, who participated in a program that's funded by the Department of Labor. Two of our teachers volunteered to be instructors for the 4-week program, Don Denico and Chad Braley, who both are STEM and technology teachers, industrial tech teachers at the high school. And the students got completely funded by the Maine Department of Labor. Pretty amazing experience. It started off, they're showing off their Milwaukee tool belts and set of tools that they got as a graduation gift, which they were pretty excited about. But even better, they started the program with a field trip to Lamy Wellahan, where each one of them was allowed to pick out their own steel-toed shoes. And they got to, and the salesperson at Lamy Wellahan said, it doesn't matter what the price tag says, what's important is the fit. And they all got to pick out, and those are these students are not students who, for the most part, ever would have that opportunity. So it's pretty cool. So they were pretty proud of their boots and wore them for the 4 weeks. They all made it through the whole program and showed up every day at 8 a.m. They earned, through this program, it was a full curriculum. It's a combination of classroom time, shop time, and visiting job sites for a whole variety of businesses, Reed and Reed, Grondin, Chinbro, et cetera. And they earned 140 apprenticeship hours, which if they go for a certification in electricity or plumbing or whatever down the road, those apprenticeship hours count. They earned OSHA 10 certification, as well as a whole bunch of skills, including carpentry skills and resumes and interview skills. And we got an extra shout out from the woman who runs the program for the Department of Labor, for the Maine Construction Academy, who said that she was so impressed with our students because these were kids who would come up and shake hands and introduce themselves by name. She was very proud of them. So these guys were just beaming at the ceremony, and their parents came and had a pizza party, but just these are some students from our Build program, our alternative program, some graduates, some who are headed on to tech school, some who are just headed right to work, and these will be really valuable skills. We had such a great success that we're really hoping that we can be a site. There's about 10 sites around the state, and this is the first time we've been a site. So I wanted to just take a minute to give a shout out to the kids in the Maine Construction Academy, and I told Mr. Denico they needed to come do a quick presentation at some point this fall, because it was really neat, really neat. Anyway, yeah, I might not be able to answer it, because all I did was go to the graduation. I have no idea.
Don, we were approached, and thank you, Lori, for sharing that, because I forget the time scale of the summer. I thought I had already talked about it, but clearly I didn't. And that was a great thing. We were approached by the Association of General Contractors of Maine. Kelly Flagg was the lead, and so she just asked if we were willing to be a site. I don't know if Don Denico had reached out to her or if she had reached out to Don, but he was a champion of this program. And all I had to do was sign an MOU saying, sure, we agree to do it, because they paid the instructors, they paid us, and we were a pass-through, so it didn't cost the district any money. We were the financial agent, and And I think it went so well that they are looking to do it again. I think what's happening is they're expanding. They had done this in a handful of sites, and so they were looking for a handful more. And regionally, we kind of were in an area that they thought they could draw from. And again, those aren't every single one of them Barn Eagle kids, but most of them are. There were a handful of kids
were
from South Portland or Gorham, yeah.
One from SoPo, one from Gorham.
But for the most part, they were. I think they applied. I think they had to apply and be accepted. I don't know specifically the criteria that they had to meet, but they did have to apply. And I think make some show that they want, you know, how they were going to use this, how it was going to apply to them. So it wasn't just a given that everyone got in.
I would like to see a female student next year, but. All right, so now the climate survey. This is my third year presenting climate survey to you folks, and it's the first year that I actually feel like I have some good news to report. Sometimes we're like really pulling through those 50 questions to find a little bright light, but this year is great. So we gave the survey, as in the past, to students, parents, instructional staff. Non-instructional staff had a separate survey with some different questions on it. I'm just going to go through each group and give you the highlights. The parents probably were had the least, not bad results, but the least remarkable results, in the sense that their scores really didn't change from last year to this year. So there weren't like big drops or big increases in the percent of parents who answered favorably. We did have 501 participants, which is not bad for a long survey that someone had to actually sit down and take a few minutes to do. 80% of the parents still report having strong connections with their children's teachers and say teachers are responsive to their questions and concerns. For the most part, parents are happy with their teachers. But there's still some parents, and that number was the same as last year, around 35-36%, who don't believe their child feels a sense of belonging at school. So that didn't improve, at least from the parents' perspectives. And the majority of parents still have concerns about bullying and don't feel like the school always addresses it promptly or effectively. Again, about the same. The one place where we did show a growth, a statistically significant growth, was more parents are aware of our efforts to be prepared for emergencies and reported feeling confident that school will take appropriate action during emergencies. I think that highlight area is in fact to that we rolled out the Alice program this year, and we did have a parent night, and we had we've sent some information and some letters out, and I think that we've been a little more organized with our safety drills around the buildings, and so people are a little more aware of it. But again, like kind of unremarkable from the parent participation sense. Most, a lot at like 50%, kind of down the middles with everything. And again, if you're interested in what was sent to you by Sandy earlier this week, and people who will get the minutes later and the packets later, there's the link to the whole thing, so you can see every question is right there. On each slide, you can link to the results. Instructional staff, we only had 340 participants, so this is teachers and ed techs. And they had significant improvements in almost every area. So they answered more favorably. So most of the questions are strongly agree, don't agree or disagree, or strongly disagree. And so a favorable answer is a strongly agree or an agree, right? So when you see a number, that's how many agreed with the statement. So 63% of them agreed that they feel more prepared to deal with culturally sensitive issues in class. I think that's due strongly, was a focus area for professional development this year. We spent a whole March workshop day on, with a whole bunch of inclusion and diversity and multilingual student topics. And they feel more like school does a better job of addressing issues of bias and stereotypes. That increased from 69% agreeing to 78% agreeing. That's a decent growth. I checked with my statistician, Ms. McGuire, and she told me that my confidence interval, if anything up bigger than 5% increase mattered. So I'm going with her numbers. 6-7% is really statistically significant. Responses to questions about bullying and discipline are trending up. They're not great, but they're trending up. They agreed that 59% are agreeing that the school fosters a safe and respectful environment. Bullying incidents are dealt with promptly has gone from 34% to 47%, but they actually were less favorably scored this year. The statement, staff at this school always stop bullying when they see it. And this is the staff reporting on themselves, on their own colleagues. They feel like that happens less often, so that we actually didn't have any gains there, actually a drop. It's interesting. They're feeling more supported by their colleagues and their supervisors. I think this really speaks to the efforts that the admin are making in improving the employment environment. And also just, we had less turnover, where people are starting to settle in. So we collaborate as a staff to support student success was a big growth area. The school fosters an atmosphere of trust and respect, went from 43% to 63%. And I know that we still have a lot of room to grow. But just the fact that we're trending in the right direction, I think is huge, because for 2 years we didn't. I feel valued and supported by my supervisors has grown to 75% agreeing with that statement. The school values and encourages staff input in shaping policies improved from 43 to 52%. The school actively supports a positive and supportive emotional climate, had big gains, still 57%, but up from 41. I didn't add all the details, but they answered more positively on all of the emergency preparedness questions. Every one of those grew by 5, 6, 10%. Mixed results about school discipline still, and this is district-wide. This is all K to 12 teachers all pooled together. Each building can tease out their own people's results from Thought Exchange and add, but this is just district-wide. I believe the school maintains fairness when administering discipline, actually dropped. The school encourages conflict resolution for students, did improve. And discipline at school aims to be a learning and growth opportunity, did improve. So, yeah. So it's a kind of up and down, mixed results.
Who don't agree with the top one.
I know, it doesn't make sense, does it? I think it's a struggle, because when you're working on helping kids grow, not all kids are in the same place. So then it looks like some kids might be getting a bigger break than someone else on a consequence or an intervention, and that doesn't feel fair, but it might be what's the right thing for those students, so it's hard. Discipline is hard, it always is. Non-instructional staff, so this is non-classroom ed techs, nutrition, maintenance, custodial, technology, everyone, all operations side. They had some improvements too in almost every area. Here are some of the highlights. The school promotes respect for different cultures and backgrounds from 75% to 82%. The school district provides resources to enhance my understanding of different cultures, big jump. The school district recognizes and addresses staff well-being and mental health, went from 60 to 69%. Student verbal abuse of staff is a problem here, dropped, which we'd want it to drop. So they don't feel like they're getting beaten up by the kids as much. Still 31% feel that way, though. Staff are teased or picked on about their sexuality. It was a big drop from 10% to 3%. So I think, and that was 138 participants, which is more participants from that side of the staff than we had in the past. There were other areas of improvement, too. Those were just the ones that had, that statistically significant change. Any questions so far on staff and parents? Yes.
I just had a quick one. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think back, because I know I took this. For the parents, could the same parent take the survey for different schools, and
They
then?
would have to go back in and retake it if they had more than one school that they were answering about. So they were supposed to sort of choose a school when they answered.
Okay, which I think I did. And so with that 501 participants, is that 501 survey results?
Yes.
So mine, technically, I was one parent, but I did
Did twice.
2 results.
Right, because Thought Exchange is anonymous, so I have no way of weeding out
Yeah.
who might have taken it more than once, if they had more than one student at different schools.
Thank you.
Yes.
I had a similar question. So that 501, was that up from last year?
For the parents are about the same.
About the same, and
Mm-hmm.
then instructional staff, 340, was that up? Do you know?
Again, about the same. I
Okay.
do have it, I can look.
No, that's
I leave
okay.
the slideshow.
You had said the
Yeah.
instructional staff was up. from
Yes,
the-
yeah,
I'm
and
sorry,
the
just wondered
non-instructional
about that.
staff was definitely up. They had about 20 more people take
I
it.
mean, non-instructional, yeah.
Which
Okay.
I want to say instructional staff was about 340, 350 last year. Parents were about 500, was about the same. Where we're struggling to get responses is from students. They definitely dropped off this year. We had good conversations about how do we tackle this next year. I think we didn't, we didn't have 30 seniors take it, let me put it that way. We offered it to seniors many times, begged them to take it, very few did. And I had conversations with some classroom teachers, like, tell me what I need to do to fix this, and they're like, until we collect names, but you want it to be anonymous. But they're like, I put the QR code up on the wall and say, take a picture of this and do this right now, and 20 kids are just scrolling their phones pretending to be taking it, right? So it's hard, or their iPads, so it's hard to convince them that it's important. So, any other questions about staff?
I have one.
Yeah.
The staff are teased or picked on about their sexuality.
Mhm.
Why would that even come into play? Is it the students or the parents?
Either way, it could be any, it doesn't specify. This was, there were actually like 8 questions. Our staff picked on about their race, our staff picked on about their religion, our staff picked on, the one that showed significant improvement was that one. The rest were already 2 or 3%, but last year, for some reason, that one had a higher number, but it has improved. So in other words, only 3% of the people who took the survey agreed with that statement, so they don't think it's a problem. I mean, it's a problem if anybody's getting picked on. And that's the hard part about this, like, we're all like celebrating, woo, we went from 50 to 68% on this area. That's still 32% of the people taking the survey who disagree with something. So it's not, we have a long way to go, and in some questions, we were so far down, like, it's like we had nowhere to go but up. But it's, as an overall, it really feels like we're making some gains with our climate, and that was a celebration this year for our.
So parents could really talk to their children about these issues, correct? About the ones that
Yeah.
picked on or teased, that's just not appropriate.
Right, well, that question was specifically for staff and specifically answered by staff.
Okay.
So the students have that question too, which we'll get to. So middle school we did actually administer a slightly different survey to middle school this year. The questions were essentially the same, but we got feedback from the middle school teachers that some kids didn't understand all the vocabulary that were in the questions. The questions were really high school language and as far as reading level. And so the questions are essentially the same, but but I did pull the survey out separately because we did reword some of the questions so that they might not struggle with some of the words. But even the kids at the middle school level are saying, you know what, there's more cultural diversity in our curriculum and more cultural awareness events at school. There's been a concerted effort by the curriculum department in the last 4 years or so to really look at our instructional materials and make sure that we're reading stories and studying artists and so on from different cultural backgrounds, so that all the stories they read aren't about, middle-class children from America or from New England, right? So that they really get a picture of the world. More students reported they feel emotionally supported by their teachers and peers. That rose from 56 to 67%. And more students trust that school will take appropriate action during challenging situations. And again, I think that speaks to our increased safety work this year. And it's going to really kick up this coming fall when we start actually doing ALIS drills with students, I think. So middle school is pretty on par with last year's. Those were 3 or 4 big highlights. Again, there's a link there if you want to read all the questions. And the high school, there was more favorability on almost every question on the high school survey. And we had like 500 students last year. This year, 438. But even with 100 fewer students, like I said, that 6 or 7% increase is a really statistically significant improvement. So there are a lot of those. 19 questions had a statistically significant improvement in favorability. So they really do feel like, the students feel like, it feels like students are saying things are better. More students report books and materials reflect various cultures, backgrounds, and identities. More students are reporting the school fosters a sense of community. More students stated that their teachers and peers provide emotional support, 53%. So again, you want that number to be like 95%, but we're moving in the right direction. The school provides access to counseling services. This always makes me laugh because everybody has access, but it makes me think about how do we go about making that easier for them to access it. And are they thinking of social work versus school counselor, you know? But again, big improvement. Students and staff work together to prevent bullying and cyberbullying. Still down in the bottom of the barrel, but 28% to 37%. Fewer reported that students fight a lot at school, which we know fights. We had one a couple of years ago. We had a really hard year, but things have definitely improved greatly in that area. More students agreed that the school encourages them to talk and listen when conflict arises, went from 38 to 46. Summaries of open-ended comments. So kids are allowed to write, in every survey, there's an opportunity to just write your own comments. And then we take all those comments, and Thought Exchange uses AI to like summarize them and categorize them. So there weren't, like the specific answers to the questions didn't really pull it out, but something that came out of those, they are still concerned about issues in the bathrooms and the hallways, and bathrooms particularly. And another one that came up a lot in the comments was more fairness in school discipline. So that was from the open-ended comments. So overall, student responses, definitely more favorable. Really feel like our climate and culture, at least for the kids in 6 through 12 who are answering, is improving. And our staff is a little bit happier. So that's good. Still a lot of work to do, but now that we have I think a usable metric, it'll be easier to measure from year to year. This is the first year I've been able to easily make comparisons. I did run white versus non-white student responses. There was nothing remarkable, but it needs to be noted, just like the last 2 years, for the third year in a row, non-white students answered less favorably on almost every question. Not giant differences, more like a 5 to 6% difference on each question, but enough to indicate that this subgroup's overall school experience might not be as positive as the overall population.
So Lori, comparison of white versus non-white students, why would we put white and non-white? I mean, that almost like singles two groups out.
It isn't. I took all the races that weren't Caucasian and grouped them together just for this, to look at the scores. So the students have the opportunity, well, everybody on the survey has the opportunity to there's like a whole bunch of choices for race and ethnicity, or they can write in. So I just took the population that answered white Caucasian and compared that with everyone who answered something other than that.
I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
it was noted that
It's all the different, yes. So non-white is all the ethnicities and everything, anybody who checked off anything, yep. So the gap is closing. It wasn't as bad as last year, and there weren't any big ones. Like last year, I had shared a few really disturbing answers. This year, it was sort of more the same, but it was definitely a little bit less favorable, and I think it's something to be aware of as we make plans and set goals and do our work. I think our efforts are the result. I think these scores are a result of the staff's efforts. We definitely focused on some of these things. You know that one of the goal areas for every school when they presented their goals last year, everybody had something around safety, belonging, student inclusion, et cetera. That was a goal area for everyone. Not by force, but just that's the way people knew that was a growth area. More emphasis on emergency preparedness and the introduction of ALICE definitely, I think, has had an impact. Explicit training for staff on inclusion, multilingual learners, poverty, executive functioning, diversity, and trauma-informed instruction. We had a whole day, our big workshop day in March. We had a variety of things in the early dismissals at different buildings during the year. I think it made a difference. Adding another EL teacher so that the students who are learning English had more support and the teachers who are teaching them had more support. Emphasis on using curriculum materials that are diverse. Like I said, we've been working on that for a few years. And school-based action steps to improve cultural awareness. Some really neat things that we brought out in the last 2 years. Buxton Center Elementary School does a multicultural day, and every classroom makes a trifold on a different country, and they have passports and go around and do activities from different cultures. You'll see a really cool thing at the high school when the doors open in the fall. I don't want to ruin Ted's surprise, but like we've got flags from every nationality for every exchange student and every student who's new to Maine. who's come to our school in the past few years, and there's 43 flags hanging from the ceiling in the cafeteria now. It's really cool. So those are getting hung up right now. Just these little efforts. Next steps. We're going to work hard on safety training this year. We know we're going to be rolling out Alice and some enhanced drills with students, which we talked about in the spring. We also, I had a workshop meeting, I should say, planning meeting with middle school and high school admin this summer, and we're really struggling still with hate language and microaggressions in the hallways and cafeteria and bus and so on. And we're really seeing that we do a really good job of sort of disciplining kids when they do something mean, but we haven't done a very great job of just educating students on, you don't say that. And some of our students, they have limited world experiences and come from all different backgrounds. And so like we have some specific plans that the schools are putting in place this year to sort of actually educate kids during Scott time and sync and homeroom and so on, and during some activities, because we really got to work on the R word and the N word and right. It's reported often, particularly by students of color, that the N word flies around pretty rampantly. So that is a focus initiative with kids in 6 through 12. And that's all I got.
Thank you very much. Very thorough presentation. Are there questions for the Assistant
Student
Superintendent?
questions?
Director Kreutz?
When I was reading this ahead of time in the packet, I was very happy to see that last slide about the actions. I would echo that I have definitely heard that the language issue is prevalent from both my middle schooler and my high schooler, so I think that would go a long way to just, it's those simple, small acts that's, like this little thing is a problem, you just can't do that. So if they're not getting it at home, or it's not being reinforced, or if the kids think that they're outside of the home and they can just go ahead and let fly, I'm glad to see that. I also thought it was interesting looking at the student results. Both the middle school and the high school, they each had similar results with students respect each other's opinions even when they don't agree, and I feel comfortable seeking help dealing with emotional challenges. Very much a bell curve where the neither agree nor disagree had the highest results, and then the strongly agree and disagree much higher than a lot of the other questions where strongly disagree and disagree were lower. So definitely some interpersonal, work to be done, and, I don't know what that looks like when we're trying to also teach kids, the facts and science and reading and all these other things. But just interesting results to call out that kind of, I think, probably feeds into some of the other results that we saw about bullying and climate and things like that. So, and it's interesting because the kids did say that a lot of them feel like they can go to a teacher and that my school cares about my emotional well-being, but they don't necessarily know how to ask for help. And when they disagree, they don't know how to handle that. So just interesting call-outs. Thank you for all the work on it.
Maureen?
I want to thank you for your presentation.
Oh, can you use the microphone? Sorry.
Thank you for your presentation. It was great. I want to thank you for the flags that are in the cafeteria. I think that speaks volumes about the direction that you're headed. But I'm curious as to whether or not we, SAD number 6, has ever done anything about educating our students about our Native American heritage, that they truly are the Native Americans, the rest of us are immigrants. So I thought the legislature passed a law that said that are we doing that, and how are we doing it?
So there is law in the legislature around it's part of the Maine studies and Indigenous studies, and Wabanaki studies is part of the Maine learning results, and it's in there, and there's a whole host of resources for teachers. We actually did, on that March workshop day, we had 2 guest speakers come in to teach our teachers some Wabanaki history and how to incorporate those things into the classroom. And we also had a couple of workshop sessions where they could have some time with a coach to work through how to work that into the curriculum. I think it's one thing to say, hey, it's the law, teach all this stuff, and even say, here's a whole bunch of resources, but teachers need time to unpack and figure out how they're going to fit that into their lessons. So we provided, that was part of what we did on that workshop day, is people had those options. And it was a big request. It was one of the most requested things when we said, what do you want to do, what do you need to learn about? And is one of the most requested things from our staff. So that, so I'm sure we will continue that work this year, but we do. And and our Indigenous students are certainly included in the survey, right, as part, and they're the ones, like I said, we separated out. They would be, they're in that non-Caucasian group that I filtered out.
So how soon do we start that in like the first grade, second grade, and do we go through to the senior high school?
It depends on what content area and what grade level. It's worked, it is definitely worked into the social studies curriculum in particular throughout K through 12. But it's going to be different topics, different years. So it's not like, oh, in third grade, we study Indigenous people. It doesn't, Wabanaki studies in third grade. It isn't really that way. It's woven in. So they have certain topics and places throughout the curriculum. You can see that on the social studies curriculum trimester maps, we call them, but the curriculum maps.
A great trip for the students to learn about that would be the Katahdin Wilderness Waters new
Oh, yeah.
museum. It's built around the Wabanaki folks. It's really something to see. It would be a great field trip for kids.
Director Reserve.
Lori, there's also 3 other tribes in the state. Have we reached out to the Passamaquoddy, the Micmac, and the Houghton Band of Maliseets? I used to service them in my prior job, and they are very willing to engage in these types of activities. They actually invited me to several of them, and I was unable to go due to work commitments. But I think the diversity, I was up north, and I saw many of the Passamaquoddies when I was up there at the Millbridge Days, and it's just, if you read about it, it's not real. In TV, it doesn't make it real. These people live by this, and I think it's just an amazing heritage.
I agree.
I wonder if you could speak a little bit about the definition of bullying as we see it, and how that may differ from what the parents, the students, even potentially the staff how they would see that.
So this afternoon, I actually was working on a graphic around this that we could share with the public. We've talked about it quite a bit at our retreat this last week. The administrators, this is an everyday thing, and I don't know if there's ever a world where it doesn't exist. It's a hot button issue. It's something that people always say, well, we got to do something about bullying. We got to do something about bullying. And the truth is, we work on this every single day. And there's probably, sometimes kids aren't nice to each other. That's just part of growing up. I think that from a state, from the main state definition of bullying and what our procedures and practices are, I could tell you that there's a whole lot of situations where students might not be nice to each other, but it doesn't meet the definition of bullying. So when we do all of the rubrics and fill out the trees to figure out what it is for state reporting, people are like, I can't believe they only had 5 bullying incidents at that school this year. Well, it's because bullying is a very specifically designed thing. And parents have sort of a different picture of bullying in their head. And so it's kind of a disconnect with the vocabulary. So I think that in the community, we think of bullying as all this stuff. And, but what we track and what so sometimes it becomes a thing. Like a principal will be like, oh, it wasn't bullying. And I'm like, it's okay. The parent thinks it's bullying. But really what it's about is, did we do something to repair that relationship between those 2 kids? And what processes are we doing to make school safer and more welcoming? And how are we teaching these kids how to get along with each other? So that when somebody, misses a play during kickball, someone else isn't screaming at them. Another kid isn't screaming at them, right? How do we teach them how to play together? And sometimes people call up and, oh, so-and-so's bullying my son. He cut in front of him in line today, and it's like, no, it's not okay to cut someone in line, right? But it's probably not bullying. And I think that, and so that's where it is. It's more of a disconnect. And the other part that's really hard is that we always have to maintain confidentiality. And I think Mr. Gleason was on the phone with a parent this week about that, or last week about that. Well, I didn't, no one told me they think nothing's getting done because we can't sort of advertise to the world what the interventions are for the student who misbehaves, right? When your kid is hurt or humiliated, you want the one who did that to your kid to also be hurt and humiliated, right? It's kind of like our mama bear, papa bear instinct. And we have to be really careful that we're taking care of all the kids. And so you might feel like, oh, that student really hurt my child, said this, did that, wrote all these things online, and as the protective parent in you wants to know that person's had serious consequences, and us kind of saying, we're going to take care of it doesn't feel like we're doing anything, because we can't really explain all the stuff that we're doing with that other student, and that makes it hard.
Thank you, Director Heath.
I just want to thank you for the presentation, and thank you. I think Thought Exchange is just an amazing tool, and I'm so glad our district is using that. I also want to thank you as a data person, having 3 years of pretty consistent wording and data. I understand the definitions and making it a little bit more explicit for the middle school, but I think that's super helpful because we can really start to compare from year to year. And in assessments and other aspects, it's always changing all the time, the tools. And so you never get that year after year. And so I really love that. And I don't remember when it was, Lori, but you and I were talking, and you were talking about how seriously the staff and the administration takes it. And I just wanted to mention that, which is that you had mentioned going on retreat, and now they have a data set for year 3. And according to you, or maybe you can speak to that, the administrators and the teachers, they pour through those results and try to see trends in places where they can affect positive change in that. And it's good to know it's not just another thing that we're assessing and never looking at and never really going back to it, because I think that happens a lot. We're so busy. Sometimes once we get the results, we move on to the next new thing, and we never really evaluate and make a plan for the future. So I want to thank you and the staff and administration for that.
Yeah, we did a data dive day about 3 weeks ago. That wasn't part of the retreat, but administrators came in and we dug into it, and I showed them how on Thought Exchange they could filter results, so that if they wanted to see how just the HB Emory parents felt and how just the HB Emory teachers felt, or so on, they can pull that information from Thought Exchange and filter it down just right to their building. And that's been really useful.
Thank you very much for all of that information. Number 13, reports from the committees. The chair inquires if there are any reports from the committees. Seeing none. Number 14, election of a district's MSBA delegate for the 2025-2026 school year. You want to?
Just to give you some background, we researched whether this was necessary. Director Carlo, when he was the chair, had questioned whether this position could be appointed by the chair, but it is in the bylaws that we have to elect a delegate for the MSBA. So I guess we'll be open to taking,
Now's the time to take
nominations.
nominations. Or, yeah. Director Sargent.
Ellen Dakotas
Ellen
has
Dakotas.
been our delegate.
Several years now, yeah.
Does anyone know if she wants to serve again?
We don't know if that is the case. We can certainly nominate her in absentia.
I think she's
Maybe
done
we
it
can
for
table it.
2 or 3 years. So I would nominate her in her absence, if she doesn't.
Mr. Sargent, I don't mean to interrupt, but can you put your microphone on?
Microphone.
I would nominate Ellen.
We have a nomination for Director Dakotas.
Second.
Second. Are there any other nominations? Any discussion?
I would
Director
just,
Kreitz.
I think Director Dakotas does an excellent job. She's very thorough. She's always very thorough and dedicated to getting the information from us and then relaying the information back to us, so I certainly support it. I would just say that, if she comes back, and since she's not here to say no, if we elect her as such, we should, give her the opportunity that if she would like to decline, that we could edit our vote at a later time, once she has an opportunity.
Certainly. I'm sure that we would have to do that if she refuses to serve. All those in favor? All opposed? 7 members voting in the affirmative. Motion passes, and Director Dakotas is our district's MSBA delegate for the 2025-2026 school year. Number 15, approval of the district's 2025-2026 all-hazards plan. The chair recognizes the vice chair.
I move we approve the district's 25-26 all-hazard plan.
Director Sargent seconds. Director Keith moves to approve the district's plan. Discussion. Chair recognizes the superintendent.
Yeah, this is a standard thing each year, and it's required by the state that the board approve our plan. This is a sort of a template that each school and site takes that template and sort of personalizes it for their specifics of their site. So this, what you have in your packet is sort of a generic version. We also typically share this with first responders and law enforcement for the sites that they service. And we have done a lot of work, Lori specifically has done a lot of work in the last few years in a safety committee to update these plans. We had these really huge monstrosities that weren't always that helpful in a pinch, and they are definitely becoming more operationalized and more helpful, so.
Perfect. Is there any discussion, any questions for the superintendent? Director Kreutz.
Sorry, I have a lot to say tonight. Everything is fine. I would just, again, as I highlighted, when we were presented with the Alice materials whenever that was, spring, I'm always cognizant of the children's response to these. I know that I'm sure we are doing this at an age-appropriate level. It can still be fairly traumatic. I know there's a lot of kids that are very scared just with the current climate in America. So just as carefully and as lightly as we can tread to do our drills and provide the information, that's my ask, to just be really cognizant of it so that we're not incurring more trauma, because it's already pretty awful. Thank you.
I'm sure we can get a presentation after we've done some of those trainings to see how that's going. Director Sargent.
If you need help sleeping, read all those pages.
Yeah.
Read different tries to get through the whole thing. It seems to me quite thorough, but you condensed a number of things down so that it's very clear, step by step, if this happens, you do this, and who you respond to. So I think, from an organizational standpoint, I think it's a pretty good template.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? 7 members voting in the affirmative. The motion carries. Number 16, notification of scheduled meetings. Thursday, August 14th, 2025, Central Office Conference Room, Committee on Finance and Facilities meeting, 4 p.m., Conference Room. Monday, August 18th, 2025, Central Office Library, Committee on Policy and Rules, 4:30. And Monday, August 18th, 2025, Central Office Conference Room, televised regular board meeting, 6 p.m. in the conference room. Are there any other meetings to announce at this time? Director Sargent. Put your.
Just one thing, finance and facilities, it's a change. We voted it last time to go from 3 p.m. meeting time to 4 p.m. And in some of the printed materials, it's still showing 3 p.m., but it's actually 4 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements for meetings? Seeing none. Number 17, adjournment. The chair recognizes the vice chair.
I move to adjourn.
Ms. Heath moves to adjourn. Is there a second? Director Black? All those in favor? All opposed? 7 in the affirmative. We are adjourned until August 18th.